So the new season kicks off, and it was a very, very disappointing performance and result, wasn't it, for Arsenal away at the Brentford Community Stadium. This is the Brentford versus Arsenal match review. Hello, I'm Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which focuses on everything to do with Arsenal. In this video, I'm going to look back on last night's dreadful 2-0 defeat at Brentford, an awful way to start the new season. A new season that maybe we were hoping to see some changes, see some improvements on the pitch from the last couple of seasons in the Premier League, and that isn't what we got. I'm going to look back on the team lineup. Obviously, there was a couple of late shocks, wasn't there? There were a couple of players missing with apparently an illness. I'm going to analyse the performance. I'm going to select a man of the match and also look at where it leaves us now going into the next couple of big games as well. Just before I get into all that, I want to make sure you are subscribing to my channel. If you do enjoy what I do, please click on the subscribe button. It does help the channel to grow. It is free of charge as well. And if you do enjoy this video, please give it a like. Please share the content around. And if you've got any comments to make at all about last night's terrible performance or anything else to do with Arsenal, please drop them in the box below, as I do love to hear from you guys as well. So the lineup then, of course, there were a couple of late changes, wasn't there, when Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexander Lacazette both were withdrawn from the squad due to an apparent illness. I'm not sure I believe that, if I'm totally honest. I think there's other issues going on behind the scenes with those two, but it did throw us into a little bit of chaos before the kickoff. So this was how we lined up there with Bernd Leno in goal. It was a back four. Chambers actually got the nod at right back ahead of Bellerin on Cedric. A little bit of a surprise there, maybe. The two centre-backs were Ben White for his Premier League debut for the club, and Pablo Mari and Kieran Tierney was left back. The two midfield pivots, obviously with Thomas Partey missing, it was Sambi Lokonga that got the nod to replace him, partnering captain Granit Xhaka. And then in the front four, there was a few changes. Of course, Smith Rowe was again in the number 10 position and Pepe out on the right. It was Gabriel Martinelli came in on the left, and through the middle was young Florian Balogun, of course, on his Premier League debut as well. So we did have three debutants in the team, or certainly Premier League debutants anyway, in the starting lineup. So that was how we lined up. Looking at the team, actually, it was quite exciting, wasn't it? A lot of young players, a really young team, but the concern obviously was, where were the natural leaders in that team? Not very many at all. Granit Xhaka was given the armband, probably the natural choice in that particular 11. But we did lack leaders, didn't we? And it became obvious once the game got underway. Well, I mean, what can you say about that performance? It's really not good enough, is it? It's not acceptable. Now, social media was full in the last couple of weeks of Arsenal fans trying to be positive really about the start of the new season. But when you saw how we played in pre-season, there was nothing there to suggest that things were going to improve. And people were saying that pre-season results don't matter. And no, they probably don't in the overall scheme of things. But that's the time to maybe try some different things, try some different ideas and see what might work. But Mikel Arteta stuck with the same system that hadn't been that great last season, as though keeping with the same system again was going to automatically suddenly change with basically the same players. And it hadn't in pre-season. And there was nothing at all to suggest that things were going to be different in this game. And that was exactly how it worked out. Yes, we started fairly brightly, didn't we? We got the ball forward, tried to put Brentford under pressure, but as soon as they settled into the game, there was only going to be one outcome, wasn't there? Great to see the crowd in, obviously, a really loud crowd in supporting Brentford, and a few away fans in the corner as well, which maybe a little bit isolated on the night, really. But anyway, it was good to see the crowd back in, and it did definitely give Brentford a lift. And to be fair, I'd take nothing away from them. They played really, really well, but that can't disguise the fact that we have got so many problems. The system does not suit the players that we've got. All we seemed to do was, our only attacking idea seemed to be to get the ball out wide to the left to Kieran Tierney to put a cross in. But it just turned out to be a waste of time, because no Arsenal player was breaking their neck to get onto the end of the crosses. No one's making a near post run. The box was empty most of the time, and the crosses were just going to be wasted. Kieran Tierney must have been sick and tired of putting some great crosses in throughout the game, and nobody was on the end of them. The only time it really worked was very late on in the game when we was already 2-0 down. It was a good break, actually. Tierney this time pulled the ball back to the edge of the area. It was a good shot from Nicolas Pepe, who had made a run into the penalty area this time, and it was a great save from David Raya in the Brentford goal, but that was pretty much the only decent attack we mustered in the whole 95 minutes of the game, and it's just not acceptable against a newly promoted team. Yes, we knew it was going to be a difficult game. Brentford were always going to be up for this game. We knew that they would come flying out at us, and they did. And they bullied us all over the pitch. They had more ideas, but the worrying thing for me was how much better coached they looked. They had a plan, they had a system that worked with the players that they've got. They played to their strengths, and so many teams that we play against are doing that. We seem to be one of the only teams in the Premier League that aren't playing to our strengths. We're not getting the best out of most of our players, and it's like the players maybe don't believe in the system. Something seriously has got to change now. People are saying it's the transfers we need to spend in the next couple of weeks, and I'm not saying that that's not what we need, but for me, I'm very worried about spending a lot of money with this manager still in place, because to me, he hasn't got the ideas, he hasn't got the motivation to lift this team, and he actually looks lost. But it's clear that his system isn't working, and it's got to change. He either needs to adapt the system for the players that we've got, or it's time to go. It's not working, and it didn't work last season, and it didn't work last night. It didn't work in pre-season, and there's nothing to suggest it's going to work if we persist with it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now the next two games. Chelsea and Man City, both really difficult games, aren't they? So it's going to be interesting how we approach them. Will we do the same again, play the same tactics, the same system? I've got a feeling we will. We did in pre-season against Chelsea, of course, a couple of weeks ago. They beat us then at the Emirates. There's nothing to suggest they won't beat us again, bearing in mind they've got Lukaku now as well, who is going to bully our defence, as indeed Ivan Toney did last night for Brentford. So it's really worrying, actually. There's one game down, 37 in the league left to go, and it's a worrying sign, isn't it? We could easily be bottom of the league going into September with these next two games. And I think if we are with 0 points and possibly 0 goals, can Arteta and even Edu survive? I mean, a man in a match is difficult to pick, isn't it, from that shambolic performance, really. But I'll go through the players anyway. Leno in goal. I think he was at fault for both the goals. Beating at his near post for the first one, was far too weak for the second one. If you do think you've been fouled, you've got to make sure that the referee knows that. Maybe go down, and then perhaps it gets disallowed, or you've got to be stronger. He didn't do either, and it was another soft goal to concede. So he did make one decent save, didn't he? But other than that, I thought he was quite poor. But Leno. Chambers at right back. He's not a right back, is he? It's strange when we've got 3 right backs on the bench, and we start with a player who's not a natural right back. And this is again something that Arteta is responsible for. He wasn't very good, was he, Callum Chambers? Unfortunately, and in the end, of course, he got taken off and replaced by Tavares, who's a left back. So the 3 right backs still stayed on the bench. Again, baffling decisions from the coach. The 2 centre backs struggled, didn't they? Ben White in particular, for his Premier League debut for us, a £50 million price tag over his head. He was absolutely bullied completely in this game by the Brentford forwards. Ivan Toney did a number on him, and he was poor. He made a lot of silly mistakes. I thought he was responsible for both the goals. A poor clearance before the first goal, and then for the second goal he was caught on the wrong foot, wasn't he? Allowed the ball to bounce in the 6-yard box, and it led to a simple finish for Brentford. So really poor from Ben White. He needs to improve a lot, doesn't he, in the next few weeks. And next to him, Pablo Mari was probably the best of our back 4, certainly defensively. He won a lot of headers and he did okay, but again, his positioning is not always great, and he struggled a little bit in the second half as well. Whether that's a fitness issue, I'm not sure, but he wasn't that great either. But he was probably the best out of the 4 defensively. Kieran Tierney at left back, getting forward, he was fantastic, wasn't he? As I said before, he put in some great crosses that nobody managed to get on the end of, but he was always getting forward. Maybe caught out defensively a little bit. Again, I thought the second goal he was on the back foot and allowed them an easy header. He needed to get his body in the way, at least try to make it more difficult for the Brentford players to score. But defensively, not great, but certainly going forward, he was good, Kieran Tierney, wasn't he? The 2 in midfield, I thought Lukonga on his Premier League debut had a decent game overall. Passed it nice and neat and tidy, always looking to try and get the ball forward as well, pass quickly, which is good to see. Unfortunately, he hasn't really got the movement around him always, but he did okay. Lukonga, decent start for him on his debut. Xhaka didn't have his greatest game, did he? I don't know whether the captaincy maybe put a little bit more pressure on him. I'm not sure, but he certainly wasn't as good as he had been towards the end of last season, and also in the Euros, of course. So again, it could be a fitness issue, maybe. I don't know how much training he's done. He has played, obviously, in the last couple of pre-season games, but he looked a little bit off the pace for me, Granit Xhaka, last night. In the front 4 calls, overall, they were fairly poor, wasn't they? Didn't offer enough. Pepe on the right-hand side was very hit and miss. didn't really contribute that much. He did, of course, nearly score near the end with a great effort that produced a good save. But other than that, he was far too quiet, didn't have enough influence on this game at all. On the other wing, on the left-hand side, Martinelli, not sure how fit he was either, not long come back from the Olympics. He looked a bit off the pace as well. Certainly not his greatest performance either. And young Balogun through the middle looked a little bit lost. I thought his movement often was quite good in the first half in particular, but he faded out of it badly, didn't he, after half-time, and was taken off quite early on in the second half. Didn't really have the impact that he would have liked. Again, he wasn't really attacking the ball, the crosses into the box enough, was he? Wasn't trying to get on the end of things. And if you don't do that, you're not going to score goals. So that only really leaves one player for me that can be the man of the match last night, the one standout performer, and that was, of course, Emile Smith-Rowe. He was always driving us forward, showed some lovely touches as well, and he was definitely our star player last night. But unlucky not to score that great run early in the second half. Would have made it 1-1, produced a save from the Brentford goalkeeper, and he was lively throughout, wasn't he? So a good performance from him, but other than that, the rest of them are really poor. So the man of the match has to go to Emile Smith-Rowe. Well, I mean, that's just not an acceptable performance under any circumstances, was it? Terrible way to start the season. A lot of optimism maybe from some fans going into the game, expecting, I don't know what they were expecting actually. I wasn't surprised by how we played, having watched pre-season. And unfortunately, I can't see things improving much while we've still got this coach who wants to stick with a system that isn't working and doesn't suit the players that we've got. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next few days, next couple of weeks, in terms of the two strikers that were missing last night, Aubameyang and Lacazette. I don't believe for 1 minute they were ill. I think other things have gone on. Is it to do with them leaving the club maybe? Has there been some falling out? Has there been some discipline issues behind the scenes? I really don't know. I'm sure the truth will come out very, very soon. But in the meantime, it's a worry, isn't it? We've got these two massive games now. Chelsea at home on Sunday and then Manchester City away the following week. And if we lose both of them two games, I think it might well be bye-bye Mikel Arteta. Yes, this early in the season, I think we may have to make that change. So that's my look back then on our first game of the season last night away at Brentford. Obviously, it wasn't the best performance, was it? It wasn't a great way to start the season. And, you know, 37 games to go, and who's excited for the rest of them? Because I'm finding it very difficult at the moment. But anyway, I suppose the only way from here has got to be up, hasn't it? We can't get a lot worse than last night. Maybe get these next two games out of the way, and maybe we can then look to get some more consistent performances. But I say I worry where we're heading with this manager. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you do enjoy what I do on the channel, please think about subscribing as well. It is free of charge. It does help the channel to grow. Please let me know your thoughts as well on last night's performance. What you make of Mikel Arteta? Do you think his days are numbered? What are your thoughts going into these next two big games? If we do lose both of them, well, it's going to be very difficult, isn't it? We'll probably be bottom of the league, and it's a long way back, isn't it, from there for Arteta, I think, as well. But it's not just him that's the problems at the club at the moment. You know, there's a lot more things going on behind the scenes that need to change as well. And I think if we want to get better results, that's going to be the first port of call, isn't it? The manager, unfortunately. But let me know what you think. Drop your comments in the box. I will try to reply to as many as I can. Stay tuned to the channel as well, because there will be some great stuff coming up. Obviously, the Tuesday Club will be coming on Tuesday evening, 7:30. We're going to look back on this game with the panel, looking ahead to the Chelsea game, and also, of course, the situation with Aubameyang and Lacazette. Loads of other stuff as always, and we'll also look back on a season from the archive as well. So that's coming up on Tuesday, and then obviously we'll build up then towards the Chelsea game at the weekend. I'll be doing a preview of that game. I'm hoping to get a Chelsea fan on as well to look forward to that game as well later in the week. So stay tuned to the channel. Loads coming up. Please subscribe. Please like, share, and comment as well. And in the meantime, of course, try to put this opening day defeat behind us and move forward. Trying to be positive if we can, but it's getting more and more difficult, isn't it? Come on, you Gunners!